Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube series and also the World Class Championship Wrestling YouTube series. We are in the midst of November of 1984. 3 matches this week, so pretty simple. All reasonably two out of three impactful matches. One there to kind of, I guess, fill time or to bolster a card. But we see Chris Adams and Kevin Von Erich finally, after a few weeks after their Adams' betrayal of Von Erich, big deal there. Adams basically justifies his actions before the process, and kind of a weak a series of complaints here, but they do battle, and the match itself is reasonably good. One of the things I remember seeing as part of maybe the documentary on World Class that WWE put out several years ago, or something like that. I don't necessarily remember where I saw it, but seeing highlights of this match before, never seen the match all the way through. They are basically squaring off pretty easy and relatively simple there. Hammerlock by Adams, and Von Erich rolls out pretty simply. Goes back to the hammerlock, tries to get basically a wrestling advantage, for lack of better terminology. Pretty simple. And doesn't get what he wants out of that. Gary Hart, of course, on the outside, giving advice whenever it's offered and even when it's not required. Kevin tries to slow the match down a little bit for a minute or two. Then we see the up and over drop toe hold basic roll through, and the crowd pops for a drop toe hold like they've just seen a 450 splash. That Texas Stadium crowd into everything that they do with each other, and so Kevin holds on for quite a bit here, gaining advantages wherever he can. Gary Hart at ringside, very tentative, not really sure what to make of everything that's going on, but suffice to say he is, a little nervous about Adams and how well he does here. Maybe they spliced together the six-man in last week a little differently, but anyway, Gary Hart wearing sunglasses is different too. Of course, in this particular occasion, because you can go to Texas in November and still have warm weather outside. Texas warm pretty year-round, most of the time anyway. But the match kind of gets a little quicker. Looping clothesline by Adams at a midpoint, and Kevin Von Erich a little bit more cautious, slows the match down a little bit. Again, Gary Hart shown several times throughout the match looking pensive, maybe not as confident in Chris Adams against Von Erich as he would have people believe that he is. And I think that translates well too. When a heel manager is nervous, it gets the babyface over. Not saying you're going to beat my man, but you could, and I don't want that, is basically the vibe that's given off with that. They go to the outside. Adams pulls Von Erich back in by the hair rather unceremoniously, and a leapfrog monkey flip combination. I will say, Adams, one of the better pure athletes in the area. Big drop kick in the corner, and again, hits a tope dive through the ropes to the outside. The crowd is up and kind of split. If you listen close enough, you can hear that there are, in fact, some Chris Adams fans still in that crowd. Von Erich does get the 3 count gets a 3 count, and Adams certainly not happy with that outcome. We move forward into a match here with the with a lot of post-match chaos. Let me cover that first. Kevin Von Erich laid out completely by Chris Adams post-match, and they actually do a stretcher job carryout, which for Texas is a major angle. Um, it's kind of one of those things that you don't really expect right off, and they go pretty all out with it. Adams is very aggressive in his post match decisions, and he does not like taking the loss here. They go. I don't even know. He when he jumps out of the ring, you actually think this is over. Maybe something will come of this that's a little more peaceful, but he is livid on the outside. Kevin, a bit surprised by the victory. You can even see on his face he gets the win, but he's not 100% sold that. I won't say that he deserves it, but it's definitely there. When you see Adams walking away, you kind of, you know, Kevin addresses the fans, addresses everything that's there, and calls Chris back into the ring. Kind of says, "Let's bury the hatchet. Let's be done with this." And crowd not really sure what to make of it. Half of them wants to split, half of them wants to be supportive, and needless to say, the microphone taken over to Adams, and nothing really happens there. Gary Hart is trying to get what he believes to be the best for his man, and the official tries to hold everything off here, but Adams makes his way back in with weapon in hand, stomping a steel chair, right into the or a wooden chair actually, right into the midsection of Kevin, and that leads to a bit of a stretcher job. I don't know. I mean, the stretcher job I agree with. How they got there, not so much. But anyway, we move to the second match on the card. Butch Reed and Iceman King Parsons. I feel like they've met before. They may have, although I watch enough of this stuff to
incoming Keen chat request.
Keep things going in a positive direction, but also get confused upon occasion about the who and what of everything. In terms of the numbers specifically, and
incoming Keen chat request.
So as we move through the match with Butch Reed here, Reed is a guy that I don't understand what his role is in this organization, in World Class in general. He's here a couple of times, and then he disappears. Maybe he's from the area, probably is, and he only comes in for big shows or something. I don't really know, but needless to say, Reed and Iceman King Parsons, they fight around a bit. Parsons is obviously one of the bigger stars in World Class. He clears out. Reed takes a bunch of shots from him, almost boxer-style jabs. Reed, at this point, starting to look a little stockier. He's, about 4 years away from his short WWF run. Biggest thing I've ever seen Butch Reed do that I liked was Doom in WCW in the 90s, so he's years away from that. Inside out pull from Parsons. He pulls him back in the ring the hard way. Parsons is certainly cleaning house with Butch Reed. And Reed even does a bit of a modified flare flop at a point. We journey through, short cut off by Reed. Reed comes down with a blow across the neck of his opponent from the top rope and starts to choke him out. Pitches him out into the area where the crowd is anyway. I wouldn't say into the crowd because there's a stadium there. But needless to say, match goes on this way. I mean, Reed is very flamboyant and borderline obnoxious, depending on if you're a fan of his, during the duration of the contest. Cannot get the final win, however, for several minutes at least, as he's actually slowed the match down with a chin lock throughout. And this is not your typical deal here. A roll up from Iceman King Parsons leads to a victory, and Reed is not satisfied with this at all. Or actually, almost a victory. Referee kind of signals like it was one, catches me off guard too when I watch, and that's why I'd written it down, because he's caught with the victory that eventually the referee waves off a bit, and then it's almost like, how do I say this? It ends up being the victory because it was an actual pinfall, but there's a lot of hemming and hawing. Really poorly done finish, if you ask me. Gino and Andrea versus Mike Von Erich and Stella Mae French. Not sure how they dropped in importance here, as Stella Mae French with the lesser Von Erich. Not that there's anything wrong with Mike per se, but if you're wanting stadium level, you want Carrier Kevin in your corner probably. Anyway, they were given about 8 or 9 minutes here. Mixed tag team match in 1984, proof they do happen. But they don't even go that long, as Sunshine is brought in via a helicopter. Sunshine basically embraces her aunt and wishes her well. Chooses to make a big deal. This is huge. A helicopter brought to the stadium. Stella Mae in there wanting to go at Nicola Roberts from the early stages. A tie up there, and or an attempted tie up more accurately. Mike and Gino have a history over the American Championship. Stella and Nicola Roberts obviously have their history. Gino is not as aggressive as normal. The large crowd wants to see the ladies go at it, that is for sure. Nicola chokes out the older lady, if not mentioned. Stella Mae French, probably 50, 60 years old. Sunshine uses a chair on the head of Nicola Roberts to knock her unconscious, allowing Stella Mae French to get the victory to close the program. So, and I don't know if this is the end of the program for Stella Mae. I would assume so. But a large crowd, very happy with that particular outcome. The ladies celebrating in the crowd, Sunshine thanking everybody, and it's an amazing run. Anyway, so that's it for the middle of November in World Class, and we'll be back with more right after this.